When you got jury members asking a question, can someone be criminally liable for not actively participating in carrying out the crime, i.e. paying the hush money, catching and killing the story, but you putting things in motion, you facilitating things? If the jury asking the judge, can that person also be criminally liable? If you on that defense team, that's not good. If the client wasn't shaking in his boots already, when you hear something like that, you really shaking in your boots.
Call your first witness. I got Kenneth Willis. He bought his business, he gon' take it the distance. Listen, he giving gaming, believing high level represent. Call your first witness. Yeah, call your first witness.
Griff has been paid for this endorsement.
What's good, what's good, what's good, beautiful people? How you doing? How you feeling? How life treating you? It's your boy, K. Will. Welcome to another episode of Call Your First Witness. And not just another episode, but guess what? Episode 15, baby. Yes, I'm here, baby. 15 episodes in. Some of you been rocking with me since day one. Just wanted to take this time to thank y'all. Appreciate the love. Appreciate the support. I'm growing, and I'm going to keep it 100 with y'all. I can't do it without y'all. Listen, I'm going to jump right into this. You already know what I'm coming with. Hot off the press. 34 counts. Guilty verdict. Donald J. Trump. You already know. You already know. This ain't a news flash to you. I'm sure most of you heard the news already. Is this one of those where were you moments? Was that what that was? I don't know. Was it that major? Was it that big? I mean, it's historic, right? It is. We know that. Never there was a president, a former president that was on trial, right? Criminal trial. Obviously, never a former president convicted. So, but was this one of those where were you moments, right? Like, I'm when I got the news, I'm at work trying to get ready for court. You know, I got a hearing the next day, and I get a text from my boy. Shout out to True, one of my best friends, and he hit me up. He like, yo, he sent me a screenshot of his TV. Trump found guilty, 34 counts. Y'all, let me keep it 100 with you. I ain't see that coming. And I don't mean I didn't see it coming in terms of him being found guilty. My best guess was it was going to be a hung jury, right? Now, what I really didn't see coming, what was a shocker to me, was the swiftness of the jury obtaining that decision, right? Like, let me tell you something. It was Thursday when they came down with that decision, Thursday afternoon. Y'all, I thought they were going to be done for the day, come back Friday, reconvene, and do more deliberation, right? That was my thought. They asked questions, and we're going to get into all that, but I had no idea that the jury would come back with a verdict that soon. And let's break that whole process down. Let's break that whole process down, because the way that came about was very, very interesting. Let me tell you something, y'all. It is very, very difficult to read a jury, right? When we picking juries, first of all, it's hard to read just one person. Each individual, one by one, it's hard to read them. You try to go off their body language. Are they smiling? Are they frowning? Do they got their arms folded? Are they paying attention? You try to read folks, and it's very, very difficult. It's not an exact science. We dealing with human behavior, y'all, right? We dealing with human behavior. And as I spoke about on my previous episodes, you really don't have a whole lot of time to get to know these people who are sitting on your jury. And so if I'm telling you it's hard to read people individually who comprise a jury, think about trying to read the entire jury. But I can tell you one way you can sometimes get some clues as to how the jury's leaning is based on the questions they ask during deliberation. Now, in this particular case, the jury members had at least 2 questions we can recall. If you haven't heard already, let me just run it to you right quick. They had 2 questions. One of the questions was, can we hear the transcript of certain individuals who testified during the trial? All right, so when you hear that question, and this is an assessment the defense lawyers are making and the prosecutors are making. We're making an assessment based on the questions that the jurors are asking while they're deliberating, right? And so based on these questions, you try to read into what direction they're leaning towards. Sometimes it gives us a clue, sometimes it don't. But when they ask the question of, can we listen to the transcript? Can we review the transcript of these witnesses? Okay, that's telling you they're taking their job serious. Credibility is key in this particular matter. There's certain things that they may not have recalled. And so now they want to listen to the testimony or read the testimony by way of a transcript from the witnesses. So that ain't telling you a whole lot other than they're doing their job. But let me tell you something. This other question that they asked, this right here, if you a defense lawyer, this is not what you want to hear. Basically, one of the questions was, can someone commit a crime if they're not actively participating in carrying out that crime, but they are facilitating the crime? They're orchestrating the crime, right? Let me tell you something. When that question was asked, immediately, if you on that defense team, that's not good. That's not good. When you hear a question like that, because now they're trying to assess what we call under New York law, accessorial liability. Basically, can we look at the co-conspirator's actions to determine whether or not this person is criminally culpable? Right? So it sounds like from that question, and it could be from half of the jury, it could be from one particular person on that jury, it could be from a few in a minority just wanting to ask the question. Listen. I understand a meeting transpired at Trump Tower in August of 2015. Right? This is the jury. And we understand who the players were. You had Trump there, you had Michael Cohen there, and you had David Pecker there. Remember, David Pecker was the executive for a parent company for the National Enquirer. He was the guy who was part of the catch and kill scheme. He was the guy who agreed to pay for stories, right? And Trump and Michael Cohen was going to pay him for catching and killing those stories, right? So you had Cohen at that meeting. And of course you had Trump at that meeting. But see, what the prosecutors established, Trump put it in motion, right? Trump didn't pay anybody from the National Enquirer. He wasn't the one who took out the loan and paid Stormy Daniels. That's what Cohen did. But the people of New York proved that Trump put everything in motion. He was the orchestrator. And so when you got jury members asking a question, can someone be criminally liable for not actively participating in carrying out the crime, i.e. paying the hush money, catching and killing the story, but you putting things in motion, you facilitating things. You the one say, this how we gonna do this. If the jury asking the judge, can that person also be criminally liable? Not good. Not good. If the client wasn't shaking in his boots already, when you hear something like that, you really shaking in your boots. You understand? Like, that ain't good. And so when that question was asked by the jury, that was a sign of, listen, we kind of see where the wind might be blowing as it relates to this verdict. But what's baffling and almost fascinating about this whole situation, according to a report, y'all, when I read about the news, I immediately got on PBS. I told y'all I didn't want to hear from Fox. I didn't want to hear from MSNBC. I just wanted to come on PBS. Just call it. PBS not perfect, But just call it how you see it. I don't want no spin. I don't want no fluff. Just call it how you see it. And so according to a reporter from PBS who was in the courtroom, he said, listen, Judge Mershon was telling everybody we about to shut this down for the day, right? It was getting late in the afternoon, and the judge told, I'm assuming the lawyers in the courtroom, Trump and everybody else, we are going to reconvene tomorrow morning. The jury's getting ready to leave for the day. And so that told me, okay, the jury knows that they have a fresh start tomorrow. They deliberated Thursday, but they're going to come back Friday, fresh on their mind, refocus, and going to deliberate some more. I really believe that they were going to spend a significant amount of Friday deliberating. Yes, there were 34 counts, and yes, that's a lot of counts, but I didn't really think it just because it was 34 counts. I just believe that it was going to be very difficult, as it normally is, to get 12 people to agree about anything. And so I don't care if you got a slam dunk case. You could ask any prosecutor. There aren't any slam dunk cases, right? You could ask any defense lawyer. If he or she been doing this for a while, there ain't no slam dunk not guilty cases. It just don't work like that. If you've been doing this for a while, you understand juries will humble you. But this was a particular case where I believe that we at least had some individuals either for a guilty verdict or not for a guilty verdict. They were going to hold out. And it was going to be a lot of back and forth over the course of at least 2 days to get to a decision. And if not a decision, what I believe was going to be a hung jury. But when Judge Mershon told everybody in the courtroom, listen, the jury is about to leave for the day. We're going to reconvene tomorrow. Y'all, just moments later, the judge comes back into the courtroom and say, we got a verdict. Time out. Judge, wait. You just said we were done for the day. We packing up our books. We packing up our briefcases. Could you imagine all the reporters putting their notes up, closing out, logging out of their laptop? It's time to go home. We done for the day. And the judge come back and say, oh, wait, hold on a second. We have a verdict. That's the part that really, really baffled me because I'm trying to understand, how did things change so quick? And so I'm speculating. Obviously, I wasn't there. We can't be in the jury room. I can only speculate, right? If only I was a fly on that wall, right? If only I was a fly on that jury room's wall, because I really would have wanted to know who changed, what made the jury have that quick decision where on one moment they were ready to leave for the day. They told the judge, we okay with coming back tomorrow. And then a quick shift. You know what, Judge? We got this. We done. It's over. It's over. It's over, Judge. We don't need to come back. You don't need to order coffee and donuts for us no more. We don't need any more of that pizza. None of that. We done, Judge. That's a wrap. We got our verdict. We ready to go home and not come back. And so, like I said, it's a lawyer's dream to be a fly on that wall. I mean, we can't be in that jury room. You know, it reminded me of that movie, The Devil's Advocate. The Devil's Advocate, there was a prosecutor played by Keanu Reeves. And that prosecutor, I think he had like a 100% undefeated rate on all his trials. If it wasn't undefeated, he had a high percentage, like maybe something like 95 percentile winning rate. And it turns out when he would go to the bathroom, there was a hole from the bathroom to the jury's deliberating room. And on all his trials, he would listen to the jury deliberate. Now, obviously, this is impermissible. Lawyers can't do this. But that was how he was able to learn more about how juries deliberate and what things they rely on and what be the turning point of the case. And some of the evidence that you think may be relevant ain't relevant, right? And a lot of times as lawyers, when we have an opportunity to speak to the jurors after the verdict, you'll be surprised some of the things they tell you. They'll tell you things that don't have anything to do with the case. We out here spending hours and hours talking about the elements of the crime and the law and whether or not the state proved their case. And they'll tell you something so left field, right? Nobody thought about. And it'd be something really intelligent. It's just something nobody thought about. And so that's why I always say juries will humble you. But of course, as lawyers, we would want to know what happened in that room. And I'm talking about in real time. I don't want an account of what happened. I would love to know how everything came about. How did they make that shift where they were at one moment, they were about to go home for the day and come back the next morning. And then shortly thereafter, we out of here. I'm speculating. Again, I'm not a fly on the wall, but I got reason to believe that probably would have been either one or two people or a few people in the minority that was going against the grain in that room, right? I wouldn't be shocked if it was one person. And when that one person heard, oh, we coming back to do this all over again Friday? Nah, we not doing that. And that person took a little bit more time and said, you know what, maybe I'm seeing this differently. I need to go along with all my peers because I'm not coming back tomorrow. It ain't happening. We're not doing this all day Friday. I didn't spend weeks on this trial. I'm going to take Friday off. I'm speculating, y'all, but the only reason why I'm saying that is because it was a dramatic shift. For the judge to say they were ready to leave for the day and come back the next morning, and then moments later, they have a decision, I believe there were at least a few, if not one person who was holding out because that was a swift verdict. But it appears that the people of New York, the DA's office, was very effective at presenting their case. And they came out the gate saying, listen, we understand Michael Cohen is a convicted felon. He has multiple convictions, and we not trying to establish that Donald Trump is guilty just based on Michael Cohen's testimony alone. And so they were effective in saying, listen, I will acknowledge that Michael Cohen is probably someone that will present questionable testimony. And when you come out the gate saying, listen, I feel you if you don't find Michael Cohen trustworthy, right? When you come out the gate acknowledging that, that takes the sting out of what the defense may come and say. Because the defense strategy throughout the whole trial was you cannot trust Michael Cohen. You cannot trust Michael Cohen. You cannot trust Michael Cohen. But if you keep on saying that, you're already going to believe Michael Cohen's testimony is questionable. They taking the sting out. But let me talk about what I have. Let me talk about David Pecker corroborating what Michael Cohen is saying. Let's talk about the ledger, the notes and the recordings and the documented calendar. All this is evidence to corroborate what Michael Cohen is saying. And obviously that was effective. And so the big question is, and I'm not going to hold y'all long, now we got sentencing, right? July 11th, Donald Trump is ordered to come back to the New York court for sentencing. Now, look, y'all, I said this in episode 11. I'll repeat this. These 34 counts of Trump being found guilty does not warrant prison time. Donald Trump does not have any prior convictions. I don't know if he has any prior arrests. That's something I do not know, but I don't think he does. These are clearly not violent crimes. One could argue that Trump was not a danger to society. Others may disagree, right? But on many accounts, it doesn't appear that these convictions, albeit 34, does not warrant a prison sentence. However, Trump will not keep his mouth closed. You can forget about it, right? If you ain't realized by now that Trump gonna say what he want, let me tell you something. This guy never ceases to amaze me. I mean, right after the verdict, y'all. Did y'all see Trump's press conference right after the verdict? I mean, immediately. Corrupt judge, corrupt prosecutor. This trial was rigged. Wait a second, Trump. You mean to tell me you gonna call a judge who has to sentence you on July 11th that he's corrupt, and you gonna tell this to the world? Y'all, but listen, we talking about Trump. Trump also was found in contempt 10 times during this trial. And I think at this point, it's like, I mean, could you imagine him sitting down with his lawyers like, listen, what's my exposure, right? How bad could it be if I just run my head? Because you already know I'm going to run my head. I'm running for president. I'm going to say what I want to say. I believe it's freedom of speech. Let me talk, right? This Trump talking to his lawyer, what I'm looking at. All right, if I get found in contempt, how much money we talking about? Well, Mr. Trump, yes, the judge may hit you with some fines, but if you keep on, the judge can put you in jail. How much time we talking about? How much time? I might get a boost if I go to jail. I might get a boost. How much time we talking about, right? Because I ain't going to keep my mouth closed. It's just not going to happen. And so everybody in Trump's camp knew you can't put a muzzle on him. You can't. But I really was like, yo, he just got found guilty 34 counts and he called the judge corrupt. So I'm like, man, Trump be wilding out here. So what I'm saying is, look, I was talking to a judge today and he was like, look, man, just on that alone for Trump calling the judge corrupt, that would cause me to put him in prison, make him sit down for a little while. On that alone. And believe it or not, judges can do that. You just got a verdict, because a lot of times, part of sentencing, the assessment is whether or not the defendant is remorseful. And no, if you've been fighting your case the whole time, you've been proclaiming your innocence, we're not expecting you to say, okay, yes, the jury got it right, I'm guilty. No. But be humble, right? Be humble a little bit. Don't go out there and of all things, you going to call this judge corrupt? I get it. I get that was your strategy during trial, but after the verdict, and it's the same judge that can determine whether or not you free and you get to campaign or he sits you down for a little while? Like, what you doing? But again, it's Trump. Right? I don't know. He do some jail time. I wouldn't be shocked if his numbers went up. You know, it's probably all part of the plan, man. Like, this thing is fascinating, y'all. Like, for real. And you know what? I'm going to leave y'all with this. I told y'all when I heard about the verdict, I put it on PBS, right? But eventually, I like to see how different networks are covering it. Put on CNN, put on Fox, put on MSNBC. I got to hit a spin. Right? I just like to listen to different narratives. I don't know. Maybe it's the trial lawyer in me. I just want to hear the spin. And so what I find interesting about Fox News and their coverage, all of a sudden they talking a lot about this case was shameful and the judge was biased and Trump did not get a fair trial and it was a kangaroo court and Trump's rights were trampled. And all this talk about what a fair trial should look like for a defendant. I just got one question for you. Where were y'all when my people weren't getting a fair trial? I'm just asking. Where y'all were when a lot of folks that look like me were sitting at a similar seat Trump was sitting at, a similar desk on trial? Where was the scrutiny then to discern whether or not that man or that woman got a fair trial? Oh, let me guess. It's your boy that's on trial. So because it's your boy that's on trial, now all of a sudden we talk about whether or not he got a fair shake in the case. Talk to me. Talk to a lot of my colleagues from all over the country that could tell you about defendants who we've been fighting vigorously, trying to get them a fair shake, and the prosecutor abused their power. And maybe the judge was biased, and maybe evidence came in that was highly prejudicial to our client, which forbid our client from getting a fair trial. Like y'all weren't interested in that kind of scrutiny before, but yeah, I get it now. It's your boy. So because it's your boy, now y'all want to talk about an unfair trial. Now y'all want to talk about a prosecutor that abused his authority. I didn't hear about a whole lot of that before. Right? A lot of times y'all are on the prosecutor's side, right? A lot of talking heads on Fox, and excuse me, it sounds like I'm getting political, but I'm just saying, as a criminal defense lawyer, I'm hearing things on Fox that I never hear from those talking heads. And as you know, some of those are politicians who are lawyers. It reminds me of when Justice Kavanaugh was to be confirmed for the Supreme Court justice seat. All right, I'm going to take y'all back some years. Remember that? Justice Kavanaugh, a very conservative judge, was slated to be confirmed by the Senate to be a Supreme Court justice. And if you can remember, there were complaints that came out about sexual assault activity that happened years ago. And I never forget, Lindsey Graham, one of the senators, was like, he's innocent until proven guilty. And we can't just rely on one person's statement to believe that a crime was committed. Hold up, Lindsey Graham, you sound like a defense lawyer. Yeah, you've been a prosecutor most of your career as a practitioner. Man, you sound like a defense lawyer. Yes, we would like to hear whether or not there's evidence to corroborate what the alleged victim is saying. But to hear that from you, Mr. Former Prosecutor, just because your boy is now in the hot seat. Wow. So they'll switch it up on you. So when you turn on Fox, you're going to hear a whole lot of scrutiny about the court and whether or not Trump received a fair shake and whether or not his rights were trampled and it was a kangaroo court. And all I'm asking, I just want that same energy when other folks are on trial and their rights are trampled. So look, y'all, that's my time. Didn't want to spend too much time on it. Most of y'all heard the news. Sentencing is July 11th. I wouldn't be surprised if it got rescheduled. But I'm very interested to see whether or not the judge is really going to be stiff on sentencing, particularly as it relates to Trump's statements post-trial, because he going in, and we know Trump ain't going to stop anytime soon. So that's my time, y'all. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate y'all spending a little time with me. Until next time, I'll see y'all later. One.
Call your first witness. I got Kenneth Willis. He bought his business, he gon' take it the distance. Listen, he giving gaming, believing high level representation. Call your first witness. Yeah, call your first witness.
Griff has been paid for this endorsement.